Welcome to Your Brain Shift podcast, where we explore topics that promote mindset shifts and brain shifts for greater success, health, and wellness and fulfillment. I'm Keith Engelhardt. Kevin McKinnon, our co-host, will be back at a future date. Our guest today is Erica McClurkin, or Clerkin rather. She calls herself an empathic leader, a lifelong learner, a digital marketer, a fitness coach, a soap maker, and a personal trainer at Conduit Fitness. I met her as a random connection in an online networking platform where we resonated and chatted at length on a range of topics of mutual interest. Erica is also a NASM certified personal trainer, a corrective exercise specialist, and a women's fitness specialist. She's also an avid runner and has completed 32 half marathons and 3 full marathons. She's a distance coach at Fleet Feet. I love the name, Fleet Feet, Cleveland's More Miles half and full marathon training program, and a 10K coach with Fleet Feet's No Boundaries 2.0 program. It's a pleasure to have you on the Your Brain Shift podcast, Erica. Anything I'm missing in sharing your background that you would want to elaborate on?
Oh, no, thank you so much for having me, Keith. I actually was a No Boundaries coach a couple years ago and loved working with the beginning runners. And now I'm working with the half and full marathon runners. And yeah, during the day, I'm a digital marketer for a small publishing company, but my hope is to spread the word of exercise and how fitness can really enhance your life.
Mm-hmm. Since I also categorize myself as a lifelong learner and multi-potentialite, tell me a little bit about that journey. How did you get into being a lifelong learner?
So I actually went to Urban Community School, which is here in Cleveland. And the structure of that school is it's set up in the way that you can keep going, meaning if you are studying at a particular level, it's not necessarily a lecture class in the grade school, it's self-learning. And so if you need a little bit more help, they provide a little bit more help. If you are on track, you're good. But if you are ready to move into the next grade level of work, you can keep going. They don't keep you in the grade level that you would necessarily be in based on age. And you still go through the different levels, but it was in that environment that I learned that I could just keep learning, which was fantastic. So, you know, whether it was reading or science, if there was something that I was interested in or just a topic that, you know, I wanted to learn more about, it wasn't necessarily there that I learned to really dig deep into that, but the foundation was set that you don't have to stop just because the chapter ends. And so I went to Laurel School in Shaker Heights, and it's actually kind of fascinating that you invited me to be on this podcast because Laurel has the Center for Research on Girls, and I served on their alumni board probably, it was more than 10 years ago that I started serving on the board, and it was a 6-year term. Actually, it was 2 3-year terms, but I served for 6 years. And they have the Center for Research on Girls, and there was the Yet campaign, which was specifically set up to help girls, and it actually helped the alumni as well to understand the growth mindset, and that if you're not good at something, you have the opportunity to be good at that later if you apply yourself. And so if you're not good at math, apply that yet to the end of that sentence. I'm not good at math yet, but I have the opportunity to be good at math. And so it's the Urban Community School Foundation and the Laurel School Foundation and that whole growth mindset. And so now if there's something that I want to learn more about, I go to the library or I search on the internet and figure out where I might be able to find a little bit more information about it. And it doesn't mean that I'm an expert on anything, but it means that I have interests and I allow myself to pursue those interests and kind of figure out, well, what speaks to me and what can I learn more about. And so it's this permission essentially to keep exploring things, even though I'm not in a traditional classroom. And I think that's a great skill for people to develop because it serves you very well.
That addition of the word "yet" is so powerful if we're stuck in our left brain's analysis and comparison and saying I can't or I'm not able to is just adding the word "yet" changes that completely, and is a nudge toward getting out of that negative critical judgment that the left brain is so good at. And then the next extension of that, I guess, at least for me, is I'm in the process of.
Yes.
Fill in the blank. Yeah.
Well, and to your point about the I can't statement, when I say I can't, that's like a warning bell for me. Why? Why can't you? And it's very possible that there's some truth in that statement. So if I said, I can't fly a plane, that's true. I can't actually pilot a plane, but I could learn how to pilot a plane. I could go to school for that. I could learn that skill. And so if it's something that's not as complicated as that, if I'm saying I can't give up meat, I said that to myself. And then I said, well, why am I saying I can't give up meat? And I ended up going vegetarian. And then later I switched to a plant-based diet. But it was that trigger, that adamant statement in my head that said, I can't. And I was like, well, wait a minute, who says you can? And so that's an indicator to me that if I'm saying I can't, that I also need to ask why. Why can't you? What's stopping you? What's the hang up? Is it fear? Is it inconvenience? Is it stress? What is it? Is it an obligation to someone else? Is it, the social aspect? So you have that with food. If you change your diet, then how is it going to be when you go out to eat with your friends? And so there's a lot of different factors, but if you start to explore, you start to realize that maybe those limitations are not as firm as you initially thought they were.
Yeah. And usually just rooted in familiarity, because our brains like to stay with established patterns. At least our left brain does.
Yes.
Yes. So empathic leader, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, I think that empathy is one of my strengths. I took the Strength Finder assessment years ago. I went through a leadership development program, and we learned our top 5 strengths. And empathy came up, and I think it's something that I haven't always accepted about myself, because it means that sometimes I'm feeling things more intensely than perhaps other people might be. And then again, another mindset shift. Hey, this is a powerful thing. You connect with people as a result of that skill, and maybe you shouldn't downplay it. And so I'm just owning it. And I think empathy is so important, because you have a better ability to connect with other people. And if you don't understand what's going on in the other person's situation, if you don't make an effort, then how can you lead? And I believe that it's important to lead by example, but I also believe that it's important to have an understanding of where other people are coming from. And part of that is asking questions and not making assumptions, but part of that is just being willing to step back and say that, what I'm experiencing is not necessarily what someone else is experiencing, and, understanding that you're not going to necessarily get the same response that you would give.
Yeah. And that in itself, the ability to be aware of and shift to empathy is actually a brain shift. Empathetic areas of the brain are the frontal lobes. And when we're hijacked by our survival areas of the brain that the majority of us live in day-to-day activities, a whole new world opens up, because that judgment brain that I mentioned is so narrow and myopic in its focus. First of all, it relies on our physical senses for input, and it's never the complete picture. If I look at my hand, I'm looking at the back of it, but that's not the whole reality. There's the front, the side, and there's always something that left brain judgment sensory, physical sensory input brain is missing. And we have this whole nother layer of our abilities. Empathy certainly is one of them, which is more of a right brain and our gut, and relying on our other potentials related to our wisdom and insights and so forth. So to tap into that can be very powerful.
I think we talked about it before, but oh, sorry, I totally forgot what I was going to say.
That's all right. It comes back.
I'm sure it
will. So I see you have a focus in women's fitness. How do you see that being different from the other half of the human population?
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up, because I'm planning on shifting my focus. When I started out, I thought, okay, I'm a woman. I understand women. I want to support women. And I think that there is some truth to the fact that women are conditioned to take care of others before we take care of ourselves. And so I still believe that that is absolutely critical, that we need to figure out how to take care of ourselves, and we can be better humans as a result. Mm-hmm. If we are in a bad place and we are overextending ourselves, exercise is something that, and here we go, here's another mindset shift. It's something that could be a burden. It could be a chore. It could be a stressor. But if you take that shift and you say, this is something that I get to do. This is for me. This is for the benefit of those around me, because by me applying self-care, I'm better able to be a good human and honor my commitments and, have more energy to do the things that I need to do. You come at it with a different perspective. You begin to enjoy that time for yourself. And so that's one thing that I encourage people to do, to think about how you're talking about the things that you have in your life. And so in the case of exercise, think about what you're saying to yourself. Is it this grueling, hard workout that you have to do? Or is it something that you get to do? Is it something that you enjoy doing? And there's nothing wrong with choosing things that you absolutely love to do, because you're more likely to continue doing them as a result of having a good experience and getting that positive feedback loop. And similarly, there's an element of self-compassion that is important. So if you set out to do something and you don't actually achieve that goal, perhaps don't be so hard on yourself, but try again, as opposed to that negative left brain, so critical, judgmental, oh, you failed, you're never going to be any good at this. I like to explore different activities, and I know that I'm probably not going to be great at them when I start, and that's okay. I learned how to swim as an adult, and I was terrible at it when I started, and I actually had to learn how to swim twice. The first time I learned how to swim, I could not get the breathing down. I had nose plugs, and I just kept going. And I mean, it's quite complicated, all the movements and the breathing, and I just could not get it with the breathing as well. And so once I had all the other pieces down, then I took the nose plugs off and I learned how to swim again, this time with the breathing. And so I think sometimes it's a little bit more challenging to learn things as an adult, but if you just get over the fact that you're probably not going to be great at something, you actually can get past that and be really great at it. You don't know if you never try.
Yeah. In contrast, any toddler,
Yes.
that's not in their perception. They see this set of stairs, and there's the desire to get to the top because they see adults doing it, and they keep trying, and they may fall down, but they get back up. They try it again till it figure it out. Unfortunately, our educational systems, for the most part, have these comparison mechanisms. Grading is one of them, and you have these judgments about where you fit on a continuum, and that I can't, or I am no good at because maybe I got a grade that wasn't matching an expectation from me or the others around me and so forth. And that whole mindset of I can't or I'm no good at is really something that's taught to us, and it takes a while to reverse, because by the time we do get it to adults, it's pretty ingrained in our neural wiring, so to speak, and has to be reversed, which is unfortunate. Circling back to your experience they had in education, which might seem totally foreign to a lot of people, because for the most part, education in our country misses what the root word is based on, educaro, to develop what's within. It's been our industrial revolution paradigms of we had to have factory workers. A great read is The Underground History of Education in the United States, or something along those lines is the title. And it was all about, establishing skill sets in individuals so they could fit in the cogs and the machinery of industry, not necessarily what would serve the culture or society, by allowing people to individuate and be who they're meant to be and follow their interests and passions for fulfillment in life.
Yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of us struggle with. I certainly have struggled with that. I probably will still struggle with that at some point in the future. I'm kind of happy where I'm at now, but I've come to the conclusion that I will always have multiple interests, and that to put myself in a box and say that, this is what I'm going to do for my career and I'm not going to do anything else is so ridiculous for me. Like that's just it's not going to work. And if you take some things away, I find new things to go and play with. And so understanding that about myself has made me a happier person, because I'm not trying to conform to this perfect little, specialized worker bee and not pursuing those other interests. And so that's how you see, someone who is doing digital marketing during the day being a running coach, for runners through a side job, and then, making soap. Like, where does that even come from? It comes from, oh, that sounds like fun. I'm going to go try that and see what happens. And if we all were able to just do that, whether it's part of our day job or not, I think we'd all be happier. And sometimes we don't have that opportunity to just pursue what's interesting. And it doesn't mean you have to stick with it.
Right.
You might try it and it might not be exciting or fun or anything, and that's okay. But you never know. You never know.
Yeah, you don't know until you explore it. And more importantly, follow your inner urges and core values, because most of us are living somebody else's core values and expectations. And no matter what career paths or focuses that we've picked up from our outside containers, they are very limited, and they're tribal. You go somewhere else on the planet, it's completely different, possibly expectations or mindsets.
Well, and to your point about the toddler and just trying and not having the I can't in their vocabulary yet, a lot of what we learn as kids is protective. so that we're not, rushing into the middle of the street
Mm-hmm.
or burning ourselves on the stove. But all of that stuff is so ingrained that until we as adults take a moment and explore why we believe those various things, we are just using that habit and not thinking about why we're doing certain things. And so it takes that effort of learning to become more self-aware and learning to question what you've picked up as a belief system. Like, where did this come from? Is this truly me? Is this a value that I want to keep and stay in alignment with? Or is it something that has been passed down from someone else, society, a parent, a friend? Why are we doing things? And that's not to say that you shouldn't do things because of your relationships with other people. Of course, that's important too. We're living in an interconnected society. But like for me, my value system, like I add to my list and I review it and question, is this working for me? And so, like, going back to the topic of exercise, that's one of my non-negotiables. But it took me a long time to realize that was something that I wanted to do for myself.
Yeah. So tell me about your coaching practices. What do you find are the biggest pain points and challenges for people when you're coaching them around fitness?
So I like to work with beginners. Working with runners is especially fulfilling because you see a mindset shift within them. When someone is training for a half or a full and they've never run that distance before, it is super powerful to see them when they start doing the training runs and adding mileage and finishing those runs. And sometimes it doesn't feel good because it's a strain on your body, but sometimes people are elated anyway because it's just such a mental barrier that they had in their head about how far they could run, and then they do it and it's like, whoa, the world just opens up. And so when it's not runners, when it's general fitness, it's the struggle of how to fit it in and how do I do this? And, I think sometimes people think that it has to be a certain way. Like, oh, maybe I, need to go to the gym and I, need to do this for 30 minutes. And if I don't do that, then it's not good. And that's not true. You don't have to work out in a gym. You can work out in your house. You can work out outside. You can do things that aren't traditionally labeled as exercise. You can work out for a minute. You can work out for 20 minutes. And so, like, me realizing that for myself has made me want to share that with other people because it doesn't have to be as complicated as we make it. We really do stress about things that probably don't even matter. And I know that for me as a runner, I was kind of like, well, is walking good enough? And then with the pandemic, I thought, well, the rec center's closed. I need a strategy. And until I figure out my strategy, I'm going to go for a walk every day. I'm going to go for a walk every day. And that turned into, I don't know, sometimes more than 20 miles in a week. Where you're out and about and you're walking and you're getting your heart rate up, and it's actually kept me in good shape so that when our training program started back up with running this year, it's like I never stopped running, even though the running kind of ramped down a little bit and the walking ramped up. And yeah, so thinking about exercise and fitness and letting go of those myths about how you have to do it and whether or not it'll be effective. And I know the pandemic has kind of thrown people for a loop because a lot of people really do great with group fitness programs and there is that social aspect and you show up and you're part of a community and and people know when you're there and they know when you're not there and they miss you. And so there's a lot of wonderful things that come out of that. And so I really like to encourage people to figure out what works for them.
Yeah.
And, if you need support, go get support, whether that's, buddying up with somebody on a weekly or multiple times a week, whether it's a trainer or a friend, whether it's a group class or like a running group or a hiking group. Heck, the virtual thing is really big too. So whatever it is that you need to do that works for you, that's the right answer. And if it's, planking in the middle of the business day for, 30 seconds, that's a plus. That's great. Find ways to move and do things that you enjoy, and it'll be easier to keep repeating that habit. But break it down. Don't make it so complicated. Don't feel like you have to go to the gym for 2 hours, because that's just ridiculous. I mean, if you want to do that, that's fine. But if you are starting at 0, trying to convince yourself that you're going to go to the gym for 2 hours is just not realistic in the context of your lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've been taught by our culture to have these grand expectations or unreasonable intentions. Socrates, when he was asked how to get to the top of Mount Olympus, responded, point yourself in that direction and take one step at a time. And we forget that our successes come from chunking, and it's the little increments toward, an intention and outcome that allow us to be successful, and learning to pivot and adapt. Okay, I can't connect up with my exercise buddies at the gym, but I can go for that walk. I can go for that run solo, and then have agreed upon check-in points where we talk on, FaceTime or a video call or text or whatever to, keep ourselves motivated and still have that social connection.
Yes. Well, and that's the other thing that a lot of people struggle with. They say, oh, I'm not motivated. I'm not motivated, therefore I can't do this. And I say, okay, you go to work when you're not motivated. So why wouldn't you do something for yourself when you're not motivated? Right,
because if you wait till you're motivated, you'll never get there.
Yes.
Or if you wait till you feel like it, you may never feel like it.
Yes.
It's about setting the intention. And regarding the motivated is, we don't need external motivation or outside motivation of any kind when it's something that we truly value. So as a coach, what I will nudge people to think is this something that you truly value? Because if there's something that we can, I love the phrase from Jonathan Fields, I've shared before in the program, is if we get up in the morning and we're pursuing something that we cannot not do, we don't need any external motivation. So for me, my core values are to evolve, develop my highest potential, to learn, to teach, to create, to problem solve, and to serve. And I don't need external motivation to do those, because those are things that, are part of my being, part of my existence.
Well, and that's so perfect and so accurate. I, for years, told myself I wasn't a morning person. And at times I'm still not a morning person, and that's okay. But I will get up with no problem before that alarm goes off if it's to go run, especially if it's to go run with other people. And so understanding our values helps us to craft a life that we are happy with, that we can not need that vacation from. And that was another one of my goals many years ago. I always wanted something to look forward to, and it's good to have something to look forward to, but I was like, no, I need something to look forward to. I need to plan my vacation. Otherwise I'm just gonna, be so stressed. And so I've made some changes, and now it's kind of like, okay, yeah, I can go on vacation, or I can go to work, or I can go do something else. And I'm not trying to escape from the life that I'm living that's stressing me out. I'm enjoying where I'm at. because of that value system, because of choosing things that make me happy.
Yeah. And when that, I don't like to use the word work, when that career or profession, whatever we're choosing to earn an income, is play and based on passion and something we would do even if we weren't getting paid for it. There's no need for a vacation.
Yeah, absolutely. The job that I have now, I got it because I love email. I love email. I love playing with the code. And having that sort of attitude about what you're doing during the day, like it just shines through. And people that I work with are like, why do you like that? Because it's fun. I'm like, okay, you do it. Okay, good. Give me more emails.
And that's the point. Whereas as individuals, we all have different values and interests and passion. And usually we're miserable because we're pursuing something that's not congruent with those. So offload it, allow somebody else to do it. Don't like to do email.
Yeah.
Hire Erica to do.
That's right, because it's so much fun. And yeah,
Erica may not like accounting and bookkeeping, so
no, I do not.
to do it.
That's so funny. No, my sister's a CPA, and I'm like, you go have fun with that.
I'm with you on that one. I still don't understand why we're following this 15th century dual ledger, debit credit system that makes no sense to my brain, but that's fine.
Well, and the funny thing is, the way I light up about running or email or soap making is the way she lights up about numbers. Yeah. Like she just absolutely lights up, and she teaches, and that's her thing. And so I think it would be wonderful if we could all find our respective things, because there's just so much positive energy that comes out of that. And so when you are living in alignment with your values, you're not only taking care of yourself, but you're also inspiring others.
And producing like crazy. It just tells me that organizations don't screen people in based on, people having that passion for whatever it might be, bookkeeping or marketing or whatever layer that's needed in the cog of the business process. Because if you screen people in based on being congruent to the values and the drives and desires that are needed for that, man, the productivity you get out of an organization would be tremendous.
Well, and again, that goes back to self-awareness, though, because there are so many people that have gone through school and they've invested so much time, and it's that, sunk cost fallacy. I actually have my undergraduate degree in economics, but you think that because you've invested the time or you've invested the money that you can't do something else, and so you just keep going. And there was actually a woman in one of my econ classes who had gone through, got her law degree, hated it, did not want to be an attorney. So she was in this economics class with me, trying to change her focus. And more power to her, but I feel like sometimes we have people who have gone in one path and they don't know how to pivot. They don't know how to shift. And so, yes, if employers were screening for that, it would catch some of that, and it would give people a different incentive to go pursue something that actually speaks to them. I mean, we're all different. We all have talents, though.
And we should be honoring those differences rather than letting our left brain judge to, critique and characterize them, usually negatively. And we see that at so many levels in the tribalism between sectors of our culture and economy, as well as universally around the planet. And I understand it from a brain biology perspective because our brains are wired to do that. It's part of our survival mechanism. But as you mentioned, if we get into our empathic centers and recognize that there is so much human potential and possibilities, if we can just leverage those. In closing, is there a particular insight around mindset or any other one of our focuses for the podcast that you'd share?
Wow. I think that you have to give yourself time to figure some of this stuff out. But if you listen, the answers are inside you. Mm-hmm. And just because you think you should do something doesn't mean you actually should. And that's another one of those warning words. I believe her name is Robin Sachs. She spoke at Laurel at a wellness event that we put on years ago, but she was like, don't should all over yourself.
Yeah.
And so again, with that warning word, like, you know, if you are saying to yourself, I should do this, maybe you should, but can you reframe that? Is it something you want to do? Is it something that you have to do? Because if it's something that you just should do, is it important to you? Is it in alignment with what you're thinking? And so give yourself permission to explore. Give yourself permission to not be perfect. Give yourself permission to figure out what's important to you.
Yeah. And recognize that we're a work in process.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I do not by any stretch of the imagination have it figured out, but I know that when I'm taking care of myself and I'm a happier human, and for me, exercise is a huge component to that. I'm able to support other people, and I believe that I'm sending more good energy into the world than not as a result of that self-care.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us today. I look forward to future conversations, and I'll have links in the podcast notes for people. So if you want to connect with Erica and her efforts as an empathic leader and fitness coach.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.